We create jobs and make entrepreneurial dreams come true. ACE, a nonprofit community lender, specializes in small business loans coupled with business advisory services. ACE has loaned more than $39 million, helped over 725 business owners fulfill their dreams, and ACE has helped its clients create or retain more than 6,200 jobs. These are the stories of those businesses we've helped reach success and claim their American dream.
Welcome to ACE's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Oldscott. Each week, we bring you the entrepreneurial story of a small business owner, inventor, entrepreneur on their own journey to creating their own dream. I'm talking today with Rob Landers. He's the founder and CEO of RL Commercial Systems. Thanks so much for joining me.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for the opportunity, and I look forward to us kind of having dialogue and getting to know each other again and what our company does.
Yeah. So tell us about RL Commercial Systems. What does RL Commercial Systems do?
So RL Commercial Systems, we are a full-service facility management company. We work with middle market to large market commercial properties in providing facility management, including janitorial, lawn and landscape, light HVAC, light maintenance on the building. So what we try to do is, from a property operations standpoint, have it where you have one vendor and one resource that you can rely on to tend to any of your facility needs.
Very great. That's a good thing, because even just being a homeowner, the number of systems you end up in your house and you're trying to figure out who do I call for this and what I'm doing that from a commercial perspective, keeping up with all that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so how did you get into that business?
So, it started a long time ago. Honestly, when I was in school and in college, to earn, some extra money, I worked for a leasing company. And a lot of the students needed to get their apartments clean before they moved out. And when I saw the bills, I'm like, hey, I went to my boss and I said, hey, I'm a good cleaner, and it kind of developed from there. And I was cleaning some apartments for some friends as they moved out. Was saving them money versus going with the big professional company. So at the time, I started getting scheduling and getting, per se more customers, and I got incorporated, business license, insurance, all of that, and got it to a point where, I was able to hire some friends to help me with some of the cleaning. I did it very low key, and once I graduated, I kind of got into my profession, but I knew I always wanted to go back. That was my first taste of being an entrepreneur and small business owning and managing people. And so when the time and the opportunity presented itself, I knew it was something I wanted to get back to doing, and the opportunity presented itself, and I took a leap of faith. And 5 years later, we're one of the fastest growing facility management companies in the Southeast. We have 3, and we're looking to add on a 4th public account, meaning that we work with either a local municipality or a state agency. And as a result, I am one of the youngest business owners in the state of Georgia to have multiple state contracts. So our company has been able to grow through providing large market services, but still having that local small business feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what did you do? You said you graduated and you went into the corporate world. What did you do in the corporate world?
My degree's in sports management. So
right.
I worked for a couple of pro teams. I worked a little bit for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then I found myself here in Atlanta doing some sports marketing and promotions for Coca-Cola. I enjoyed what I did. It was fun, exciting, but 12, 14, 16-hour days. And,
yeah.
At the end of the week, and you didn't have any work-life balance.
Right.
So, and it just was nonstop. And, so for me, I said, well, if I'm going to do 12, 14-hour days.
Do it for yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was sports marketing. Did you go into sports? Did you do sports growing up? Is that how you got into sports marketing?
Yeah. I always had a fascination with sports and, an affinity to it. And for me, it was, kept myself busy ever since I was young. And once I said it was time for me to go to high school and think about what I wanted to do, I looked at, hey, what is something that makes me happy? And business and sports. So it just made sense to do sports management. And it was enjoyable. I got to travel a lot, meet a lot of people, live the fast life in the essence of meeting celebrities and athletes and so on and so forth. But for me, that wasn't really the reason why I did it. I mean, I enjoyed literally creating a concept, going through the execution piece and actually seeing it come to life. And so that was rewarding for me. And it was good for the time, but I always knew I wanted to get back to, being my own business owner and being an entrepreneur.
So then, you did this sort of serendipitously when you were in college, kind of through the seeing what other people were paying and doing, I could do that for that, right? But to then decide you're going to go into it from a kind of building a business, did you go back to those same sets of roots, or did you decide to pursue commercial? Like, what did you do to get back into the space?
You're absolutely right. I mean, initially, when I started, I was still working full time, so I was kind of doing it on a part-time basis, just to kind of get my feet wet again, get back into the industry, learning the different dynamics of, what all are included as far as your costs, your expenses, your overhead, things like that. So I really baby stepped my way back into it. And what I did was I focused on building those relationships from a one-on-one standpoint, really going above and beyond for a customer. Most of the customers we started with were small business owners themselves.
Okay.
And none of them ever thought about what it takes to take care of their facility. Their focus was their business.
Right.
And so now that they had employees and had patrons and had staff, okay, it's cold in here. Why is it cold in here? We're turning up the heat and nothing's changing. Or, hey, we have 300 people coming through the building day and night. No one has time to clean the break rooms or clean the restrooms. So when we first started, it was really working with other small business owners and entrepreneurs. And, from there, I was able to see what worked, what didn't work. And then once I felt like we had a nice established operational plan, it was time for us to move on to the bigger accounts. But ACE was a resource in that process. Before we moved on to take on larger capacities or larger responsibilities, I wanted to surround myself with as much resources as possible. Being a young entrepreneur, and being a millennial, of course, we think we know everything. And so one of the things that I tried to do was make sure that I was well-rounded from a financial standpoint, from a business management standpoint, leadership, staffing. And so ACE has been a pivotal part and a pivotal piece in our growth and development.
So more on the kind of training education side?
Well, both from a training and education and from a financial resource.
Okay.
ACE was the first organization that provided us a small business loan.
Okay.
We had our first loan for $10,000, and for me, I thought it felt like $100,000. But ACE was the support system, like, okay, $10,000, but this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to apply it. This is how we're going to make it work. And this is how you're going to get a return on your investment. And we followed that plan all the way through, where I was able to pay back the loan within 12 months. And the business had grown almost, close to 70 to 80% because of the resources that we were putting in place were actually coming to life.
Yeah.
And so I've been with ACE now for almost 4 years.
Oh,
so,
wow.
and I plan on being with ACE for as long as they'll have me.
Well, that's a good thing from a resource perspective, like looking at starting kind of in the small companies. That's potentially people who would understand you too. You could have conversations about what else could I do for you, those kind of things before you stepped up. You talk at the beginning about being full service, so I can come to you for almost any problem.
Correct.
So was that a transition for you to move to full service, or did you start off as full service?
Well, yes, it was a transition. Originally, we were strictly janitorial.
Okay.
And then as we started working with some of the business owners, now their lawn or if they own the property, their landscaping needed to be attended to. So, they would make the recommendation, can we do this? And I would say, sure.
Right.
Of course, I didn't know how to do it.
You said yes a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime the opportunity presented itself, I was saying
so
yes.
There are two camps. There's the yes camp and the no camp. Yeah, and there are people who are like, oh, you don't say yes to everything. You have to say no. You have to protect. I fall more on the yes. I probably do too much yes. Like, well, yes. Yeah, it's got to translate somehow, right?
Right.
And then you do it, and you're like, never again.
Absolutely.
But at least yes once, right? Yeah.
And that was the same thing for me. It was a matter of, it was trial and error. So even if I said yes, and the project or whatever the assignment we were working on at that time didn't work out like I wanted to, that's been a key to our business growth is, I would take accountability and I would take a look at how next time I can do it better. And that's what we did. So we went from just the janitorial to the lawn and landscaping to the window cleaning to the floor maintenance to light maintenance. I mean, I have customers now, it's to the point where they're like, hey, do you do this? And I'm like, yes. But over the years, I've been able to establish partnerships and relationships with someone. So I know that if someone reaches out to me, or when I go to do a proposal with a new potential customer, I say there's nothing inside of these four walls that we can't do.
Right.
Now, they might not know that I don't have anybody on staff to do it.
Right.
But I do have a vendor network that we've established over time, per se a database. We've created our own in-house Angie's List.
Yeah.
So instead of you having to go and search for it, we've already done the searching for you, vetted these individuals, and have started them on small projects just to see how their work will be, making sure they're on time, making sure they're still providing the level of excellence that we expect on our end. And as a result, it's a huge benefit, and it's added value, it's cost savings to the client, reducing risk, and making sure that at the end, I tell a lot of our clients when we go and we meet with them to do a proposal, I am not a contractor. This is going to be a relationship and a partnership. And if you're expecting someone to come in to just do a contract part, beginning, middle, and end, we're not going to be a good fit.
Right.
So with that being said, it's like, we need your feedback as we're going to give you feedback, as we're going to educate you about actually how to successfully manage your property. Because as a contractor, most contractors come in, here's a set project, here's a start date, here's the finish date, and once they're completed, there's not too many contractors that go back and say, hey, how did everything go?
Right.
We live in such a tech age now that whether you get your car serviced or you have someone do some work on your home, what do they do?
Yeah.
There's not a physical person that comes back to you and asks you, did everything go okay?
Right.
You get a text message or an email.
And then if you answer anything less than a 7 or an 8, then they're all over you, right? You're like, well, I gave you honest feedback. Did you want it or not, right?
So what we've done is we just have taken a old school philosophy, and that's where we have been able to grow our business is, having that blue collar per se work ethic and matching it up with the new technology. So yeah, we're going to give you a survey, but it's going to be me coming out to you personally.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty of clients that have said that they've never had a contractor come back to make sure that everything was, as long as the check is paid, then the contractor says, hey, we did what we were supposed to do.
Exactly. Well, and that vested interest, it's interesting because you and I do very similar things for different places. So I do marketing type work, and I tell companies the same thing. I'm not a general contractor. I sit on your side of the table. I'm helping you select the right people because it's sometimes a different person, right? Like not everybody's the same.
Right.
I may have multiple people in my Rolodex, and for this situation, I'm going to bring this person in, and for this situation, I'm going to bring this person in, right?
Exactly.
And the other problem they have, and could happen in your case too, where I may only need this one time. So it's a transaction for me, whereas you are managing them multiple times. So you're bringing lots of deals to them. So it's, the relationship's more important. Like, where does that relationship live? Yeah.
And I've learned that process, really, there's no reinvention of the wheel necessary. I do follow up on a lot of case studies from larger firms. And I look at firms in different industries because essentially, and this, business, it's behind the closed doors, it's the same process.
Right.
It's a product, a service, and it's customer service, and it's making sure
the project is recurring. It's like there's, it's kind
absolutely.
Of, right.
So I look at a lot of larger companies and I take a look at, how do they manage their clientele, how do they manage their processes, how do they manage their operations, and then how can I adapt to that on something on a smaller scale so that the customer truly feels though that they were enriched by the relationship that we had. And yes, we might be just cleaning, the floors or cleaning the carpets, but we can go to a company and say, hey, listen, here's the deal. You've got a 50,000 square foot facility. You've got, 200 employees that just work here. That doesn't include the people that are coming in and out, foot traffic. Okay. So you've got some really nice carpet here. do you want to preserve this carpet? And we can preserve this carpet by putting down a treatment, on a quarterly basis, which saves you money versus us doing it on an annual.
Very proactive. I like that. Very much. Well, I'm going to take a commercial break, and when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you've learned along the way. But I like that because most people are very reactive on those kind of things. Even on your houses, you are reactive. So we're talking to Rob Landers. He's founder and CEO of RL Commercial Systems. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We'll be back in just a minute.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business may have closed in 1 year.
If it wasn't for ACE, my business wouldn't be expanded as much as it's expanding right now. They were there for me at the time of my need.
If it wasn't for ACE, we would not be here today.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for ACE, I would very much still be cooking at an hourly rate, and I would have never impacted hundreds of lives and an entire community.
I still remember going to different kind of banks, big banks, and with papers, and these people send me back because I don't have, I had experience in the restaurant business, but I don't have, everything else this bank needed, and ACE believe in me.
I did the research in Adult Day. I had experienced it personally because my grandfather had Alzheimer's, so I wanted to do the business myself. Get into it because I knew I could make a difference.
Initially, when we started, there was only one person, which would be me. And then the company I've grown from 1% to 8, and we provide quality assurance, quality control testing for FDA-regulated companies.
I think Grace not only completely understands what it's like to start off in an office connected to your laundry room or wherever she was, but she also understands the growth process, and I think that she does an excellent job of making sure that everybody who works with ACE has an understanding of the kind of struggles and celebrations that you can have.
ACE has helped us with putting our business idea into the market, working with us with the business actually working, actually showing us, guiding me personally how to solve some of my marketing issue problems or with the business planning.
You don't meet many lenders that are invested in your success. And, from their classes or presentations, seminars, they really do have a vested interest in your success.
The best advice I can do to small business owners is follow your dreams. Always follow your dreams, follow your heart.
Have a plan. Just because you have a passion for it doesn't mean that you can start a good business.
Get ready for the ride of your life, and definitely make sure that you look out for fantastic resources like ACE.
ACE is the way to go.
You're just the best. They really are.
And we're back here listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Rob Landers. He's the founder and CEO of RL Commercial Systems, and they take a proactive approach to making sure that your facilities and location stays looking the way you want it to look and be when your customers show up and employees. I mean, all of that plays such an important part of kind of the overall persona of the company,
Absolutely, absolutely. Some of our larger clients or our database of certain industries include healthcare, your health clubs, smaller medical facilities, and places of worship. Because for these industries or types of facilities, the cleaning and the maintenance of the building is not a luxury.
Right.
It is
It's
a
requirement.
necessity.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people determine what gym they're going to go to based upon the cleanliness of the gym.
Yeah.
So, with that being said,
No funky gym smell.
I mean, it's
It's bad.
the gyms are, for me, a challenge because you never know what you're going to get when you walk in.
All right. Yeah.
I love going to meeting with the gym owner who owns the gym, who started the gym, and we walk through the gym, and I'm like, is there a reason why everything is painted white? And they're like, oh yeah, it's bright, it's for the aesthetics, and I'm like, yeah, but it easily shows everything. Or I've been with some gym owners and they're like, oh yeah, we're about to do a renovation. I just wanted to keep you updated. We're going to add this. We're going to do this. We're going to paint this restroom white. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Let me just make a suggestion. It's your place, it's your money, but
You're suggesting like dark black paint.
Oh yeah, or and I'm like, you can still keep it contemporary and classy, do like an ash gray or
Right,
charcoal, and do a flat so you still look cool, but please don't do white.
Don't do white.
And I would say, and some of my customers when they hear this, they're gonna say, he's talking about me.
Yeah, but that is that proactive thing, right? You have a contractor come in. We've been in the middle of doing a basement renovation, and everyone that we have come through doesn't like anything the last contractor did. But there's no continuous, because we're the ones, and we're like, well, that's what they said they needed to do. So it feels like you're like that continuous person, talking with them and making sure they're being proactive with some of those people. And then, you don't necessarily always know what the right thing is to do next. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because it's, as you grow as a small business owner, you don't have all the answers. And so it is a learning process. There's a constant maturation that needs to take place. For me personally, one of the ACE consultants, we've been meeting on a regular basis, and she said, I noticed something, and it never had dawned to me until she brought it to my attention, but there's a reason behind it. She said, you don't have CEO or president on your business card. And she said, I've worked with a lot of clients and everybody has CEO, founder, president on their business card, and you have director of operations. And she asked me, she said, why is that? And I said, well, I've only been in business for 5 years.
Yeah.
That title is a title that is earned. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that title. And I can honestly say that I don't feel like I fully have earned that title yet. It is a personal goal of mine for 2018. It'll probably be my first little blog article for the beginning of the year. But you have a lot of individuals that, as small business owners, are still learning and still getting their feet wet. And I think for us, it's a benefit to the company because the diversity of the clientele that we work with proves to be an asset. Some contracts that we'll do a proposal on, and one that we've recently won, they said, hey, we want someone that has specifically managed this type of building before. And in my proposal, I addressed that. And I said, we have limited experience with this specific building. However, through the diversity of the other type of institutions that we provide services for, we're going to be more of a benefit because we're able to take more experience, more techniques, more tools, more skills to this project. And what you're setting as the expectation for everyone else, our goal is going to be to exceed that expectation through the diversity of our experience.
Such a smart answer, and that's exactly the answer, right? I mean, people will ask you, do you have experience in this industry? Do you have it? And I'm like, I may or may not have experience in your industry, but I have solved your problem before. It's about the problem. And I see the same problem in very diverse industries, like something like agriculture and then, office supplies. Like they have the same problem.
Exactly.
So you approach that problem. It has nothing to do with the industry. So that's what you've got to address.
I mean, everyone's biggest problem is always payroll, no matter what.
Well, okay, that is true. Yes,
No
cash flow and payroll.
Industry, it's always going to be payroll. So, now what you have to do is just take a look at your industry, and try to see how you line up against the industry average. So I'm constantly forcing myself into seminars, expos. I know me and you had a chance to do a webinar last week, and it was awesome. And I have to give you the credit. I've been telling people about the webinar, and some of the people that I work with, and some of my other colleagues. And I know I was talking to a colleague about it the other day, and she was like, "Have you noticed I've been quiet this whole time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, which is odd for you." Yeah. She's like, "I've been writing notes this whole time," and I said, joining you on Slack and trying to follow a lot of the tips and tricks that you're providing, it's essential for business owners because, I took a couple of marketing classes in school, and I had to do some marketing in my career, but the times are constantly changing.
Yeah.
So you have to keep yourself abreast of, one of the biggest things you pointed out was, your focus on your website versus your social media. Are you putting the right emphasis on your social media versus your website, versus if you're having a product or a service? So I felt like that was a huge benefit for me. And I'm like taking notes myself, and I'm like, hey, this is going to be top of the list of 2018. I know I need to focus here a little bit more. So
well, and I told somebody, it's because you talking about solving the problem. I was just in a sales presentation before our conversation today, and I was saying, like, the advice I give you today on marketing 6 weeks from now might be different. It's probably the same content, but it's like share it slightly differently. Right. And you need someone who's looking across, just like when you're looking across things that are trends in the industry. Use this cleaner, don't. Do this for your HVAC, don't. And all the, like, how or is smart home or some of that Internet of Things technology, is that impacting what you're doing from a job perspective?
Not really. It's actually helping to be a little bit more efficient. I mean, there are new technologies in the marketplace, but from the commercial side, it's a benefit for me to be aware of those new technologies because I can make recommendations to the client and the customer. And so as a result, if we do a year-end case study with a client, we can talk about the things that we've implemented to help them to save money, save time, save energy. And so with what we do, more so the technology is seen on the equipment that we use, and as well as chemicals and solutions. We're in going through a time where everybody wants to be more eco-friendly. So there's a lot of new solutions that are hitting the market that are per se biodegradable and more, trying to reduce your footprint. And so those are the things that I kind of stay abreast upon when it comes in relation to my specific industry is new chemicals, new equipments. What I love to do is we're part of a couple of different contracting associations. And so when they're putting out new information about this company went with a contractor versus employees, that's something I might post on my Facebook because, if someone's going to get some more information about our company, one of the biggest things that they'll see is, okay, is this going to be a cost saving for us? Yeah. That's a big thing. ROI, like, do I do it myself? And having that kind of long-term strategic thinking about it as more of a Band-Aid or an immediate fix. It's fixing something versus fixing it long-term, right? So what is what's the way that you, when you're talking about like best practices and, building your business, so have you just naturally known what to do next? I know you say you've tapped into advisors, but, growing the business, thinking about how to market it, like how has that come to you? So, I mean, definitely that's where ACE has been a huge help. ACE, it's more than just about funding and financial capital and how to raise it. They surround you with a plethora of resources and individuals who are experts in their given industry and field. So right now, with 2018 being a big focus on me trying to develop myself into more of a CEO per se, I've started to put those pieces into place. I was at a holiday event last night, and I had an opportunity to meet with an attorney that I was looking forward to that specializes in business law and contracting. So my goal is to work with her on our contract sides, on our making sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And I sat down last week with my banker, and he's been calling me for like a year and a half, and finally I'm like, okay, let's sit down.
Finally, I'll talk to you now, right?
Let's put the numbers together. And having my advisor with ACE, and I have another advisor with Georgia Small Business Development. So it's really surrounding myself around with the people that have done this a lot longer than I have, and I always tell them, look at me as a blank canvas.
Yeah.
So I'm the person that you can say that if you're giving advice to, they're going to digest it and actually put it into place.
Yeah.
A lot of times as small business owners and entrepreneurs, even though we don't know everything, we think we know everything.
Well, and there's this also belief that maybe you have to know everything. Like somebody will start a business and they're like, okay, all of a sudden everybody thinks, well, you started a business, but you must know everything. And so they act the role, and you're behind the scenes just faking it the whole time. So that's an interesting, I'll be interested to see your blog post around not taking that CEO title, because you're probably one of the few I've ever met that, I mean, I don't walk around and say that often either, but I do it more for sales reasons. It's like, if they know they're talking to the owner of the company, then they know they might be able to get a deal.
And you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's the same for me.
Yeah, like, I got to go ask somebody else, right? So there's always a scapegoat.
Yeah, I do the same.
Typically, that's my wife, by the way. She doesn't want me to take a deal. She's like, seriously? So, well, that's going to be a lot of work or whatever, I'm sure, because your friends and family know that about things too. When you take something, you're like, they've done that before. That was not a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife is always like, her biggest advice, and she's right though. For me, a lot of times when I find myself getting a little bit more aggressive, I want this, I want to see this, I want to see that happens. We may hit a speed bump because I might run into something that I haven't dealt with on a larger scale, which is the worst thing that you can do, and say yes in that situation. And my wife reminds me often, she's like, when you take your baby steps and you put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, that's when the business seems to take off the most. And so I want you to continue to be aggressive, but having a good, this is what we do is a marathon. This isn't a sprint.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon uphill.
Absolutely.
Marathon uphill. Absolutely. And then as entrepreneurs, you get to the peak and you're like, okay, where's the next one?
Oh, yeah.
What do I do next?
And it can be scary once you get to that peak.
Yeah,
especially if you're afraid of heights. And, no pun intended. But
there you go. Me too. Well, I wish you the greatest of luck. A really cool story.
Appreciate
you're doing it really well. Yeah, so I appreciate it. So you've been listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Rob Landers. He's founder and CEO of RL Commercial Systems. Make sure you join us next week when we bring you another story of an entrepreneur, inventor, soon to be CEO as they grow their own business. See you then.